What if AI can do more than just follow your instructions? What if they can take on goals, think critically, and even take on roles like managers, researchers, and writers? Today, we're diving into the future of AI agents and what it means for your business. Welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show, where you get the latest strategies, tactics, and information to get the business benefits of artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye. I'm the Chief AI Officer with 0 to 60.ai. I'm joined by Jeff Bradshaw. And today, the topic we're covering is AI agents for business and why it matters.
AI agents is something that's coming at us rather quickly, and I think it's something that a lot of organizations are unfamiliar with. And I think that it's going to change the way businesses operate and the way your customers interact with your business. And so that's why it really matters, is I think it's going to be a hot topic that's going to hit businesses fairly quickly.
So I want to start with what is the definition of agents? Now, we've seen everybody talking about agents, right? We've heard about HubSpot Breeze, Salesforce Agent Force, Microsoft Copilot Agent, Replit Agent. But we have to think about what the heck does that really mean? And I think the one thing that I want to maybe start with, and it's something that Shaw, like the one of the co-founders at HubSpot, the current CTO there, and he mentioned this a while back, but then he removed it, completely removed it from his website. Not sure why, but I think he was trying to sell the whole HubSpot Breeze agent.ai stuff. But his definition was software that uses artificial intelligence to pursue a specified goal. It accomplishes this by decomposing the goal into actionable tasks, monitoring its progress, and engaging with digital resources and other agents as necessary. So let's give a simple example. Right now, we have AI tools that can do tasks. So, for example, if you type in a prompt, you can go, hey, give me a 500-word blog post about the impact of, let's say, AI on CRM. This is the example that Dharmesh provided. Or list the 10 cities in Italy, including what they're known for. Give me that in JSON. Now, that's a task. But I think what we're talking about agents here is a goal. So the goal, I think that he actually made a really good example was launch a new online newsletter about whatever topic. So about AI. So the tasks involved could be something like there'd be branding. So coming up with the name for the newsletter, a logo, domain, what kind of tech stack. So what kind of program are you going to use for the newsletter? How are you going to research? How are you going to gather ratings, reviews, pricing, and then writing? Like, does it write into writing the initial posts, introductory posts, flags the post, and then how do you launch it? How do you make the subscriptions? How do you announce it? How do you make those available for all the social media channels? So there's a difference between asking it to write a blog versus go launch me a online newsletter. Two very different things. And I think that's a big distinction when we talk about AI agents, because I think when we talk about Agent Force, AI, HubSpot Breeze, Microsoft Copilot agent, they're all talking about tasks or just combining a couple tasks together like you would like a glorified automation. But I don't think that's what, Sam Altman, Dario Amodei from Anthropic, I don't think that's what they're talking about.
Well, you know what? I think the interesting thing is, Carl, again, you and I are always, I'm always kind of the guy relating to the average CEO out there
Yeah.
who isn't aware of this stuff, because we've heard about all of these agents, but I think the majority of business executives maybe haven't even heard what an agent is and are even unaware of what's even capable. And I think so that's a great description. I think you're providing an example of what is to come, because, um, you know, I think that the tasks of writing a blog, people can kind of grasp that. I don't know if very many business executives can actually grasp the concept of an agent, because, maybe we could talk, what are some other examples of an agent? And I think about it like, I want to go on a trip, a tropical vacation in January. Right now, I have to go and search a bunch of sites. I've got to research. I've got to, look for deals. I've got to figure out where I want to go. And I think with that would be a good example, right, of where an agent in the future will be able to take that task on for me. No different than building a a blog post or a website for a company. Is that like, I think that's the key thing that we want to help people understand is what exactly are agents going to do, and how do you control them, right? How do you guide them so that they're making the right decisions? Because my agent might say, hey, you should go on a trip to Cancun, but I might want to go to Hawaii.
That's right. But you know what's interesting? I think Sam Altman had in a talk, in another talk, I think right after Dev Day or something else, where he was saying the thing that we automatically gravitate towards is, can I get an agent to book travel for me? But if you think about it, do we really want an agent to book travel? Because there's so many nuances to it. Do we want this flight? The flight alone has so many variables. Like, do I want business class, first class? Do I want economy? Do I want to sit in the back? Do I want to sit in the front? So you're going to have to provide all this instructions at the beginning. Do I want any layovers? How long do I want a direct flight? Do I want to catch a red eye? Do I want to catch in the morning? And then, do I need a car? Do I need from a hotel? What kind of hotel? Where do I want to stay in the hotel? So there's too many aspects of this. I think what he was saying though is, how about instead of thinking as an agent to go out to do an individual goal, think about it as a senior workplace employee that can enable you to do something, or that employee can do something, and in say a couple hours or maybe a couple days, it comes back and accomplishes said task. And that's two very different ways to think about it, right? Initially, we gravitate to, hey, take all this task that I don't want to do. But I think we have to start thinking about it in a different way. And he even said, okay, now think about 300 agents, 30 agents that he can do. So how would that work?
You know what, Carl, I think that's a good point about, having, not necessarily having it, book a trip for you. Maybe an agent could at least do some of the work for you. So maybe it could bring you some options for flights or hotels and everything, but not do the final booking. But even that would be a huge step. But I agree with you. I mean, when you think about it as a senior advisor within a company, those are tasks that I think you could have an agent step in and really save a ton of time. And again, a lot of those, like I even think about if you need to do a job posting, there's something that could create a job post and upload it to various sites and start to, collect resumes, even do reviews, and like that. I think that could be, even an agent application that could be very beneficial.
I want to show this video of what is potential for agents. So this was the new computer use from Claude. And here's like a 2-minute video of what potentially you could use.
I'm Pooja, and I'm a researcher at Anthropic. I'm going to show you a simple example of computer use today. My friend's coming to San Francisco next week, and I want to take him to do some touristy stuff. I think doing a sunrise hike with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge never gets old. So I'll ask Claude to figure out some logistics for us. I'll ask Claude to find a good place to see the sunrise, to help me figure out timing logistics, and help drop a calendar invite so I remember when I have to leave. It's opening Chrome, going to Google, searching, and it looks like it's found something. Great. So how far away is the location from my place? It's opening maps, searching for the distance between my area and the hiking location. Cool. So now it looks like Claude is searching for the sunrise time tomorrow. And is now dropping it into my calendar. And populating it with some details. And great, it looks like Claude did it. This is a simple example, but we're sharing computer use early to learn from what people build.
That's pretty neat from what Claude can do. I also want to show you another example of what was just released. So we're recording on November 15th here, but this was released yesterday from ChatGPT, where it now is able to connect your app to your ChatGPT Mac app to some coding apps. But I think that's not the point. The point here is the ability for you to open using, say, ChatGPT to open any application and just command it via natural language. So here's the example here. So for example, so I'm going to restart this. And then right now it's on text. I've connected to the text edit. So this is a transcript. So I'm just going to say, hey, what do you see? What do you see? And it can see the application. Now, right now, it can see and read. So it can read this, but apparently it can, within the next couple weeks or a month, you can interact with it. So not only can you say, you know, what do you see? Can you make edits to it? So from a coding perspective, that's amazing. It's having this thing always view you. But there was an article by, I think, Ryan Morrison from Tom's Guide that says that imagine if you have this thing in a Zoom call, a Teams call, Google Meets call, where it's reviewing, you know, seeing the meeting and then providing you tips in real time. So that, I thought that was pretty neat. Or the other example he had is imagine having this on while you're playing a game of Fortnite and then giving you real-time advice.
Absolutely. I mean, I think those kinds of applications, and I think that's the thing about it is that I think that it is, and you kind of mentioned off that it's a new way of thinking. You have to almost look at what the capabilities are of this new technology from a different light, and you got to be a bit open-minded as to kind of some of those applications, because you know those examples are ones that a lot of people wouldn't even think about until somebody puts it in front of them, and it gets your mind going and going. And you and I see this all the time when we go into companies. You know, they're like, we don't really have any, you know, we don't think we have any applications for AI. You show them a couple of examples, and then it's just a ripple effect. You know, and I think that's what's going to happen with agents is once people kind of understand the basics of what they can do, I think there's going to be multiple applications.
So I want to show you one more example here, and it's related to a program called Bolt.new, and there's other tools like Replit or Cursor, but I wanted to show you this because I think, and while I'm showing you this, I want you to think about from a business perspective. One, what would a business need to, shift their perspective with something like this, and how would one, or how would a business, or how would executives in that business kind of start rethinking maybe their operations? So this is Bolt.new. This is the ability to build applications using natural language without using any code. So here's an example. One of our clients, a home builder, is like, create a single page web app that displays a list of available homes for sale with details like price, location, number of bedrooms, available features. And to do that would take anywhere between two days, a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, depending on how complex the application is. And obviously you'd have to know how to code. But with something like Bolt.new or Replit, any one of us who doesn't know how to code will then be able to build applications. And as you can see, obviously it's building it up. Now, if you were a software engineer and you know how to code, then you can obviously probably recognize if it's making errors or doing things that you don't want it to do, or have different nuances. But for every one of us, think about within a year or 2 years, every single one of us will have this capability. And that's something that's why I asked you, Jeff, how would that change businesses, and how would that change the outlook for executives?
Well, and again, I think that this is such new territory, new frontier, that I think that again, once people start to think about this, because again, a lot of executives, they're not even thinking about these applications, because if you think about, as you just mentioned, for an executive to build something like you just created in about 45 seconds would typically take months in a large organization. And the costs involved with doing that would be, enormous. So they might do one or two of these a year. With this new technology, if it's readily available, I think that, it is a real shift in the way that they think, because there's going to be so many applications. Now, then again, I think the other concern too is that just because you can build these things and these tools are available doesn't necessarily mean that you should build it for every single application, because I think what could happen is there could be an overabundance of these new applications and websites and processes. And so then it comes back to our concern too, is that, will it get so confusing or so difficult to find information because different teams are creating different applications within organizations? Like, how do you kind of regulate that so that the focus, and this is what our focus is always on, is increased efficiency, right? How can you increase the efficiency of your operations, not create more chaos internally and confusion amongst team members or customers?
As someone who regularly flaunts rules in when I was working at corporate, as someone who would start building stuff or doing stuff that I either wasn't supposed to or know what I was doing, I guarantee this would be something that if I was still there, it would be amazing to do, because right now IT doesn't have full control of this, right? So and the thing's moving so fast, you wouldn't know how. And on top of that, imagine every single team, like you mentioned, being able to build an application that would meet their whatever pain point. And we've seen it where teams inside organizations go rogue and just purchase something, create something, because it's just the system doesn't allow them to do it. But now they have the ability to do it. But that also, if you were like a business, I think maybe there's opportunities to embrace that. But that's a whole overhaul of how businesses have been operating.
But I think some of that chaos is good, but I think if it's controlled chaos, and maybe this is a little bit a bit of a pat on the back for what we do, because I think that it just goes to show why it's important for companies to have an AI integration plan in place, a strategy and plan, so that they can put their efforts into the areas that are going to get them the biggest return on their investment, whether it's time or money, and making sure that there's some guidelines in place as to where you're going to incorporate these applications and where you're going to build agents. And, because I think that if you can get a strategy in place, well, then it's kind of, you can have an operation running, synchronized, and the different departments are relying on what other teams are developing. Because like you say, like, I even think from a brand guideline standpoint, right? Like you can give a team a Mid-Journey or one of these other tools, but that's pretty dangerous if you don't have some guidelines in place, like a brand guideline. And that's no different with an AI guidelines and strategies. Is it? I think it's important. And again, this is why it's important for executives to be educated on this stuff, because you will find that senior management will all of a sudden have teams going off rogue and doing things and doing the Carl Yays of the world, where all of a sudden there's these applications showing up.
Yeah.
It could be really good, but there might be 3 or 4 of them that have been built in different departments. And why not focus your energy and have,
Yeah.
applications that they can use across the board, across the organization?
I think the difference there is I've seen teams buy 2 versions of, say, SurveyMonkey, and because one team obviously is not talking to the other team, and then you're
Yep.
making the purchase, and the company's paying for 2 accounts, and they didn't know that they're paying for 2 accounts. But something like this is, I don't need to pay for accounts. I'm building something unique to the problem that I'm trying to solve. Just like using Bolt.new, I want to solve this problem. Build me that application. So you've built an application that solves that problem. There's obviously integration challenges and, privacy, data, all those different challenges, but it's empowered essentially people, but it has to have a different way of thinking. I wanted to shift to this though too, because I think this is an important thing that a lot of businesses would also consider is, if you have an agent, how does that impact your workforce? Both in terms of cutting your workforce, but also how does that empower your workforce? So here's an example. Most companies would probably need to hire a social media, more mid and larger companies have some sort of social media person, right? Whether it's creating content, managing, so usually sometimes connected to PR, doing the brand review, whatever that is, there's a role similar to that. Imagine if you have an agent whose goal it is to ensure delivery of social media content. And then it creates four different agents: one to write, one to create audio, one to create faceless video, right? And then one to review or monitor social and PR. So now it's created four different agents to be able to do that. What does that mean? There's two ways for me to look at this. One is that you have your social media person being 10, 20 times more productive. But the other way to look at it is you have a social media person that is no longer necessary. Very interesting paths.
Well, no, and I think, and we always have this discussion about that the elephant in the room, let's call it, the replacement of jobs, and I think that is going to happen in various aspects. But again, I also think about, when you talk to so many people in corporate roles these days, most people I talk to have got more job responsibilities, less time, more pressure, and they can't even keep up. And so they're just getting the basics done, and there's very little time spent on anything that might be, somewhat, open time to create new processes or ask, so I think that's again where we say is that if you get free people's time, and I think about even, an agent, because when you built that application that we just showed, maybe the brand team could build an agent that could review all corporate documentation to make sure that it's meeting the brand guidelines. You could build an agent that could review all documentation from a legal standpoint to making sure that it's searching out certain legal things. So then if you did that for the brand team, we are going to have a better end product that's being delivered and something that's on brand and meeting the guidelines. And then it's going to free up that brand team to go, what else can we do to help promote our organization? And I think that's the thing. And so you're right. It's a matter of where's the job human replacement versus the enhancement.
So here's a couple of examples. I was running through when I was chatting about this, preparing for this episode with ChatGPT, and an example of goal-driven agents could be in real estate. A AI agent could manage property listings from acquisition to sale, automating marketing, communication with prospects, and scheduling. In government, a goal-driven agent could oversee a digitization project, scanning, categorizing files, automating the verification steps, integrating with public access portals. But then we can also look at role-based agents too. So imagine a agent programmed to take a specific business role, designer, researcher, project manager, and then you can give that agent specific goals or tasks, and then that agent would then go about creating either its own agents or connecting with other business agents to accomplish said tasks, right? So there's so many ways we could go, but I think we've seen this too. Even though the technology is there, and the technology is here right now, if innovation stopped today with AI, there is enough technology that we have available to still last us for 5 to 10 years because adoption is still so low. So what are some of the, I guess, the challenges for business in terms of thinking about or even starting to try out agents?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and we always talk about this, is it's knowledge, right? You've got to understand the basics of the technology. You don't necessarily need to understand how it works. We always, we talk about this comparison. I drive a vehicle every single day, yet I know very little about how an engine actually works, but I know how to turn the key on. I know how to put it into drive and step on the gas pedal. And I think that's one of the first challenges that businesses need to get over is educate yourself on what these agents are, what their capabilities are, then take a look internally to figure out what are some of those areas which an agent could potentially provide value. And then it comes back down to that, do an analysis on the return on investment. And again, that's with time and with finances. And I think that if organizations go through that simple process, and again, that's something we work with clients on every day, I think they'll find opportunities to start to use agents sometime in the near future. They're going to be ready for what's coming down the line. So you're not going to have a competitor that's going to go flying by you because they have done these steps. And I think that you can kind of get into it, but there are challenges. There's going to be resistance because what are the security concerns? What are the, and it's just the unknown that I think organizations are going to be fearful of. And that goes back to the study that just came out about, the uptake on AI for organizations as a whole is really quite low compared to the uptake with employees who are using it for their own applications within a business. And I think that needs to catch up. And I think that, education, doing analysis, but we always talk, this isn't going away. It is coming. And I think that it's important for organizations to look into it and figure it out, even though there are some of those unknowns and concerns they may have.
So for your organization, here's a couple things that you may want to think about. What are some potential high-level goals that could be handed over to an AI agent to automate a specific task? And then how could an AI agent take on a role that would complement or enhance the work of your human team members? And one last thing to think about, what are some risks that might arise when assigning goals to AI agents? And then how would you mitigate them? And I think the big thing here is still, where is the human in the loop versus what can you just completely automate?
Learn more about the future trends of AI in business by watching these videos here. Enjoy today's episode and want to learn how AI can impact your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next episode.